special salute in the superintendent's update, so we're going to save that. Correspondence. Chris, do we have anything for correspondence?
We do not.
We do not. Okay, and public comment. Marcia. This is Steve's favorite part. He's not here tonight.
Not here to see
Nothing. All right. All right. The consent agenda. Does anybody have anything to take out of the consent agenda? Okay, otherwise we need a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second. Okay, okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. All righty. PTO, Bree, we're there.
With the fan club.
Okay, the Hoop, our big fundraiser of the year, was a huge success, due in large part to board member here, co-chair, Carrie. We raised over $15,000 that day, so it was a wonderful event. Since then, we've been very busy. We had the Internet Safety Solutions guest speaker here for the parents. It was fairly well attended. We had about 40 to 50 parents in attendance, and he spoke for about an hour and a half and then answered questions for over half an hour. So that went very well. It was very informative and was very good at educating the parents about the site, not trying to scare them away from social media, but trying to educate them about what's available so that they can answer the questions appropriately when those questions arise. We have had 2 grade level socials so far this month, and the remainder of the socials will be after the winter break. So those will start back up in January. Those were also pretty well attended. We had about 40 students at the kindergarten social and 30 at the social that took place this past Friday. Scholastic. This week we will be delivering books to the winners from the book swap. The classrooms that participated most heavily or donated the most books to the book swap, those teachers were awarded, the top 15 teachers, with a $25 gift card to Scholastic to pick out books. We got about 80% of those teachers to actually give us a list of what they'd like. So those finally came in, and we'll be distributing those to those teachers this week. The book fair will be starting on December 9th, and that will run through that week, and we will have family night on Wednesday night. The book chairs have met with the administration to make sure that we're following the new safety protocols for book fair night, and that's been covered. Thanksgiving food drive is going on, and participation is lower this year, unfortunately, than it has been in past years. We're going to do a push with emails and letters home to the families so that we can make sure that we provide adequate groceries to the families in need at Beecher. We are prepared on the PTO board to donate a little bit more in cash since we're having a good fundraising year so far. If it turns out that we don't have the participation that we need, we'll just donate extra more in cash to make sure those families have the groceries that they've had in the past. Special activities so far this year, the 4th grade special activities has been hosted. That was the Native American speaker presentation that came in and presented to the 4th grade, and then we had Les Julian come in and present to the pre-K and kindergarten classrooms as well. That took place last month. And we've also met with Gina, and we have a new format for the special activities to try to make sure that we're reviewing them on an annual basis to make sure that the presentations that are taking place are helpful to the classes. They're still exciting. They're not just being done because they've been done in the past, and that they tie into the curriculum as the curriculum changes over the years. So we are meeting with the teachers to explain that new process and the parents who help out on that so that they know it, and hopefully that will encourage communication and make sure that we get the best possible presenters here to work with the children. So that's what we have going on. PTO, it's been a busy couple of months.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Does anybody have any questions for Bree? It's fantastic. It's amazing. So thank you very much. Oh, wait, Dr. Stella has something.
I can't help but to
He has a
say
question.
what a fantastic job the PTO is doing. You really help to build community here at the school. As one example, and it's one of many, the Halloween food, it's hard to imagine that it gets better and better every year. There were hundreds and hundreds of families. I know there was a visiting family. They were looking around, moving from somewhere, I don't know where, looking at districts, as soon as they came to the hood, they said, this is the school that we're coming to. And I was so pleased to see so many staff members and faculty members, as well as middle school, former alumni of the school here, and middle school and high school, coming back as volunteers. Okay, Gina and I volunteered too. Parents put me in the kitchen. They wanted to use my strengths there, giving out hamburgers or whatever. I guess they saw that. But it was a wonderful opportunity to just see the lines of parents. It just didn't stop. Lines of parents coming through and having chats with everyone, and what a good feeling it was. So keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Stella, you are on.
I thought I just...
Yeah. And we just want to move
What,
one agenda item.
Okay, yeah, let's move an agenda item. Let me get this down so the TV cameras can see me. The teaching assistants at our school do a fantastic job, really a wonderful job. They're like the glue of the school. They work directly with our children, individually, small groups. They assist in so many ways. They care for them in the lunchroom, the breakfast program. They're willing to do anything, whether it's a safety item, jump on a bus and travel with the children, whatever it is. So we're very pleased with our teaching assistants, and I'm pleased that we were able to reach an agreement with the contract, which I think is a fair one. So we're bringing that to the board.
Okay. So we need a motion on the contract.
I move that we ratify the contract agreement with the SCIU Local 2001, effective July 1, 2013 through June 30th, 2016 for submission to the Board of Selectmen and Finance.
Second.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I'd just like to give you like a little table of context, or what I'm going to present. I'd like to start with a focus on the children, and I will have a chance with their help to do our pledge, say something about our teachers and our administrators. Then I want to talk about a powerful day of learning that happened this week. Have Gina do a Beecher Road update on it, and then maybe something on safety, and hand it over to you. Try to do it in a short time. First with the children. Presented by our 6th graders. So it's a real children's one. They do it on Friday. It's sent out to every class in the school on Monday. And I'd like to show this as an example of work that's done that goes beyond the normal curriculum, and how we're trying to help children with their presentation skills and their communication skills at the same time. The first one has to do, there's a reference to Veterans Day. This took place last Monday. Later in this morning today, because you can see it at any time during the day. And there's a focus. The children reminded us that tomorrow is the 150th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address. So there's a reference to there, and this is something where they work with Mr. Crawford to put together, and I'll say some words after this here. Now you'll hear the menu again, so. When you tap the talents of our kids, they do things that we can't do. And tomorrow, if I want to find time to go around to every 6th grade class, maybe other classes too, and just challenge the children to see if they could memorize, be able to recite the Gettysburg. Maybe I'll say I'll try too. Maybe Ms. Carter knows. Who else I know? Matt Kilbright knows who can do it. I don't know anybody else. Maybe the next board meeting we'll see who can recite it. Now I wouldn't be surprised at Beecher Road School if a kindergarten child got up and did better than I with that. But so we're very, very pleased. Now, the other part of my comment. I really want to commend, and I think it's important for us to commend the work of our teachers at the school. This is a year like, last year was a year like no other as far as weather. This is a year like no other as far as the amount of legislation and mandated change that is taking place. Patrice McCarthy, the legal counsel for CABE at our conference, said she has never seen so many task force and committees pushing out different kinds of mandates. I'm not judging them, I'm just saying everything is coming at the same time. But I would say our administrators here, this is me speaking, my view, what I see, what I've seen during this summer, the work that's been done during this summer, the past few years, this year, I have nothing but praise for our administrative team and for the teachers on the way they're handling Common Core. Common Core is not something that's done once and finished. It's It's an ongoing kind of thing. We started a couple of years ago. The teacher evaluation system, which is a comprehensive thing that you really have to wrap your arms around. The administrative plan, SBAC, with the constant changes that are taking place, the changes in school talents, a whole variety of things. But here you could see teachers at work. You say, where are the children? Wait, what do they do with the children? This is after school. This is the day they worked until 5:30. Our teachers are putting in a lot of days, a lot of hours after school. In fact, during our negotiating time, they are the ones that asked in the contract that they have increased faculty time after school. So again, I thank Mrs. Prisco, Sheila Haverkamp, Nancy White, Al Pulo, of course, and all of our teachers for the wonderful work that they're doing. I know, Mrs. Prisco, you're going to do a veterans report, but I'm going to do it because this way, what I could do is praise you and the administrative team and the staff for organizing such a powerful day of learning. Our marching band, they have so many different kinds of bands here. I don't know if this is the marching band here too, or the jazz band or whatever, but they did a wonderful job of playing, including taps, including the Star Spangled Banner and other patriotic songs. We're so proud of them. We're proud of Mr. Letch and our whole music department. First Selectman Scalatar came over and joined us for that day. She and I shared words as far as the meaning of the day, the history. We tried to keep it short because the learning activities were taking place in the classroom. We were so impressed with how respectful the children were. The whole school, the entire school, gathered in front of the school. And we had dozens of veterans. You see some sitting right there, but we had others that were standing. And they were family members of people at the school, they were staff members, they were visitors, they were community members, and they were visitors from the Veterans Hospital as well. This is one example of many things that happened. There were great, Mrs. Prisco and the administrative staff, the teachers organized grade level kinds of activities. The teachers had a lot of input. There was elasticity with it too. Here's a 6th grade class with a veteran from Vietnam. Here's a Second World War veteran, 94-year-old gentleman who was at the Battle of Normandy invasion, came to show his, and a Navy veteran, Carl, maybe a colleague of yours, I don't know. But they told their stories to the children. It was such an intimate conversation that took place. And it happened in many classes throughout the building. This gentleman thanked us afterwards for allowing him to come here. And we were so thrilled that he came. And he was so impressed with the way Veterans Day was being celebrated. A 5th grade activity, there was a theme for that. Does someone remember the theme? It was
America's White Table.
What was it?
America's White Table.
Want to say a word on the white table?
I can talk about it.
Okay.
Do you want me to now, or I can do it with that?
Later, okay, do that. Okay, now, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So again, it was a powerful day of learning. In the past, years ago, Veterans Day was a day off. We've established it as a day of learning for our children, and we saw that happen this past week. Now, talk about hardworking teachers. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll ask Mrs. Prisco if you could elaborate on anything for Veterans Day and give a Beecher Road School report.
Sure.
And then I'll get into the world language.
Just before I give my report, Bree just shared, I'll talk about the White Table first. 5th grade as a community reads the story of America's White Table. And one line resonated with me. They poured salt for the tears that were shed. And so the premise of the story is they set a table, and everything on the table has a meaning. So Mrs. McCollum's class hosted, and she read the story, and her class acted out the story of the White Table. So you have a completely set table, and napkins, to dry the tears, and a flower. So Bree just shared when she got home that day that her table was set the same way as the story. So I'm sure I got a little bit of goosebumps there. But it just shows the power that the students bring to the meaning of this. So I was going to kind of share with you all of the things that happened that day. thank the family members and the community members that came to share their stories. Because we don't want those stories to go away. It is how we came to be who we are in this country, and we thank the veterans. And yes, it is sometimes a day off, but being here in school gives meaning for the students. Understand, why do we honor our veterans who have served our country? And my dad's a veteran, so when they have an opportunity to come and talk to the children and share what it is that they've done, I think it creates for the next generation a whole new perspective. And whether they're 5 in kindergarten, hearing stories listening to text on their level, or creating pictures, or whether they're in 6th grade interviewing a veteran and sharing that with their class, that brings a whole new meaning to the day for them. And as a whole school community, we were able to provide cards and pictures and letters to the Veterans Administration Hospital in West Haven. It's the 2nd year that we've done that. The gentleman who I work with, John Daniels, he's in charge of volunteer services, couldn't have been more grateful. And he said at any time during the year. Last year when we did this, we had enough cards, letters, pictures to put either something on a breakfast or lunch tray for the entire month of November for someone at the hospital. He said, but if you could remember us at any point during the year, it just brightens somebody's spirits. So for me, and to share that as a whole school, we'll certainly continue to do that, and we thank them for their appreciation. But it also brings a little meaning for our students. They don't know who's there, but when you get your breakfast served or your lunch served with a picture that says thank you, or a picture of a flag that's colored in if it's from kindergarten, or just a card that they've made that says thank you for serving our country, it helps to bring meaning for them as well. So those were just some of the activities, and again, the BRS News, done by students, created by students, under the guidance of, again, our technology team, Mr. Crawford. They do a fantastic job, and it's something that our younger children can look forward to. So I wanted to just make sure that we brought to light those things that we did on Veterans Day as part of my update. And, can I do one more piece before?
Of course.
Sure. In my last principal's message, I sent out, with the help of Dr. Stella, a connection to our evacuation plan and that the winter weather is coming. So just some tips and reminders for parents to listen for those if we do get some inclement weather. What happens, what's the difference between a school closing and if there is some type of reason why we need to leave the building, power outage or so forth. So you can look back to the superintendent's update in August or to my principal's message from last week for those reminders. You know that evacuation is part of our drills, as are our fire drills, and we had our very successful bus evacuation this past week. Students did a great job. Our 6th graders helped the younger children, showing them not to jump off of the back and how they should sit and come down. So we do thank our students for helping with that, and all of our teachers' assistants.
Thank you, Mrs. Prisco. We have a very active school district safety committee, and Mrs. Prisco is the chair of that. There's at least one drill a month, and we take a comprehensive look at all procedures. I'd just like to mention, connected with safety, we work very closely with our Woodbridge Police Department and the Volunteer Fire Department and our Fire Marshal. We can't praise the men and women from both departments for all the help and cooperation they're giving to us in the collaboration. We had the Fire Marshal and the Fire Chief with us the last fire drill we had to help assess it, give pointers, commendations about it, just trying to always improve. This past week, we had Deputy Stewart, Lieutenant Libby, and of course our own resource officer, Lynch, come with a state trooper from Bethany to assess the ingress and egress procedures that we have. We've consulted with a number of security consultants on the changes in ingress, egress. In fact, the changes are based on their recommendations. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but other than to say it's their recommendations, is sensitive times. And one of the things that we have is we're very pleased with our bus children, how quickly they get on the bus. They're able to leave in a very orderly fashion. We appreciate the cooperation that all of our parents are giving, especially our parents who are picking up children. and they come to the north of the building, the cafeteria area, again, based on informed recommendations from our police officers and security consultants. We are following certain procedures in the interest of security for our children, and I can't thank our parents enough for helping us with that. One of the things is that we are not supposed to have, at that time, adults in the building, so that's why we ask people to wait outside. Now, we know that there may be problems in the future with weather and so on, so we appreciate everyone's cooperation. And again, it's based on interest in providing the best security for our children as possible. So I don't know if the board wants to comment on that, or?
We did, Dr. Stella keeps the board informed on what's going on with the safety committee, and we thank, Mrs. Prisco and all the work of everybody involved. And the board does support Dr. Stella and the administration and all the work that they're doing procedurally to make our children safe. And Dr. Stella and the administration, I hope you know, the board does support what you're doing. And we get regular updates from Dr. Stella.
No, I have to say,
Carl, wait, I don't know. Carl, did you want to say that?
Excuse me. Carl.
Sorry.
Fine.
Okay.
Mrs. Prisco, her staff has been very helpful. We have more staff than ever before at entrance time and departure time, watching out for our children, and also giving us an opportunity to say a good morning to the children, a good afternoon, to chat a little bit with parents and so on. Try to keep that friendly spirit that we have at the school, that we want to keep at the school. Mrs. Prisco is always in the north, watching out, oversight, and Mrs. White is in the south, doing an excellent job. Sometimes we focus on the north. I'm very pleased with the procedures and what's happening in the south, the way the children quickly get on their buses when they leave, the way they come in. Our safety patrol is doing an outstanding job. It's good for their character building, but they also contribute as role models for our younger children. So that's our safety report. I just want to remind everyone, the community at large, we thank the parents for helping us with this, promoting the meeting on this coming Wednesday, a very important meeting, November 20th. It's really a chance for our entire Beecher Road school community, our entire town, to come and hear a presentation on the proposed Beecher Road School renovation project. It's very important for people who have children in the school, as well as for citizens of Woodbridge, to hear what's involved with this proposed upgrade. So that's another part of it. Al, do you want to say something about the boilers?
Last week, Dr. Stella, Greg Kula, our facilities manager, and I met with the project implementation team from ESG, and to basically lay out a timeline, exchange key contact information. Headlines I'd like to share with you are, right now the timeline is calling for all 3 boilers to be fully operational by mid to late January, with a request from our superintendent, the sooner the better, and they are targeting to accelerate that as best they could.
I told them that vacation week is a wonderful week to bring it to culmination there, so they said they would try.
Other good news is the work will be done in evening hours after school, so there'll be minimal, if any, disruption to classroom activities.
Okay, and the front doors, the north
Front
doors?
Last week, a lot happened last week. Last week we had replaced our front entry doors, actually the core mechanicals of the doors. We had a contractor come in, take the doors down, replace the hinges, replace the levers, and added a center mullion to where each of the 2 doors meets. So that'll help reinforce the doors when they're locked during the day and obvious evening hours, better interact with the key card swipe and the door buzzer release entry. And we did have to have the contractor out earlier today, do some minor tweaking adjustment, which, as he pointed out, is not uncommon when you take doors down and do the work that he did, replacing all the components as he did. We've tested it several times throughout the days, and successfully they've been locked at all times.
Keep testing, that's good. Okay, and again, I want to thank Nancy White too for the work that she's doing in the school organizationally with things such as, we take it for granted, children have lunch, cafeteria. Nancy's a key person in making sure that they have a comfortable and safe environment there. So that ties in with our safety too. And emotional, social development of children and the environment is very, very important. We think of the physical plant, we think of, security, things like that. So is the social, emotional, and Sheila Haverkamp does an outstanding job of heading our committee, dealing with that, our school climate committee, and so on. So the whole team really works together with that. So that brings me to the next part, which I'll hand off to two hard-working people. And you could guess who they are. If you don't, write it down on
We saw the
paper. Who am I? Stephanie and Stephanie, the two Stephanies, Stephanie Goldberg and Stephanie Wilson, do an outstanding job. I don't know, there could be now, I don't know everything. I know a lot about schools, but there may not, I don't know other an elementary school that does as much focus work on a world language. There's one other district I can think of. But these ladies have worked so hard. We've had an outside consultant come in to develop a comprehensive curriculum from K to 6, and also a whole series of assessment designs so that we could use that to inform instruction and hopefully as an articulation as we move to middle school, children move to middle school. Because we're looking not just at K to 6 with world language, we're looking at K to 12. So our expectation is that by the time our children leave 12th grade, that they're proficient in at least one second language. If it's sooner than that, that's great. But at least by the time they leave high school. And if it's 2 or 3 languages, some of our children already come to school with 2 languages. So there's a focus on that. But we know the classroom is not enough. It's a certain amount of time, and we probably have more hours than many schools. Many schools don't have a world language. Other schools don't have as many as ours, especially as we go up in the grade. So what we're doing too, and then we'll have the presentation here, we're reaching out for other means of enhancing world language instruction. Here's a picture with the director of the Woodbridge Public Library. There we are at the library looking over the language books there. And we're trying to develop a joint project between the library and the school system that will motivate and excite the entire town of Woodbridge about second language learning, particularly our families. And we're hoping to develop, work with one of the language companies out there and give access to dozens and dozens of language instruction that could be easily tapped at home from the school. So we'll keep you informed that as we go along. So now I hand this over to Senora Goldberg and Senora Wolfson for their presentation.
Well, while they're getting set up, I just want to add my thanks and appreciation to the administration, to Dr. Stella, to the staff. There is a ton going on constantly, and when we get to the CABE section of the agenda, I have some more comments about the CABE conference and what we saw there, and how much more we appreciate what goes on here after seeing what goes on elsewhere. So thank you. Again, I just wanted to add my thanks.
Buenas noches, bienvenidos. So I'm Stephanie Wilson, and this is Stephanie Goldberg, and we are representing the Spanish department here, Beecher. And tonight we just want to introduce ourselves to the new board and go over the goals of the program, talk a little bit about the design and where the students are at when they leave 6th grade, and how we assess that, and talk a little bit about the future of the program. So, let's start off with our goals. Our goals here at Beecher Road are to provide students with opportunities to engage them in the target language through reading, writing, speaking, and listening experiences, and to provide meaningful exposure to the Spanish language on a continuous basis, starting in kindergarten. So this is our schedule. The breakdown here, we have our grades over here, K through 6. This right here is the amount of days we see them per cycle, and we see them on a 6-day cycle. And these are the amount of minutes we see them per cycle. So starting in kindergarten, we see them twice per cycle for a total of 60 minutes. In 1st and 2nd grade, we see them once per cycle for a total of 30 minutes. In 3rd grade, we see them twice. You're on.
This way they can hear on TV.
In 3rd grade, can you hear me? Is this too much? Too little?
It's for the TV audience also.
In 3rd grade, we see them twice per cycle for 60 minutes. In 4th grade, we see them 3 times per cycle for 90 minutes. And in 5th and 6th grade, we see them 4 times for 120 minutes.
If you could keep that on for a minute. Now, what we did is, everything is a work in progress. We added 30 minutes this year to kindergarten. We were not able to add any additional time this year, but our hope is that we will add 30 minutes to the 1st grade next year also, so that we will increase it as we're going along.
So, beginning in kindergarten, students experience language through technology-based instruction. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but whether it be through the smartboard, iPads, iPods, podcasts, they're getting technology-based instruction straight from kindergarten on through 6th grade. We also try to loop in as much authentic literature and song and games, all kinds of hands-on activities that are authentic to any Spanish-speaking country. In the kindergarten, we definitely use puppet conversations. It gets really cute. We sing songs on the guitar. It's a lot of fun. And then in the upper levels, like in 5th and 6th grade, we have a more thematic based curriculum where each unit is built in more of a theme. So it's, for example, in 6th grade, we have a healthy living unit where they're not just learning about fruits and vegetables. It's more, they learn about fruits, vegetables, how to create a healthy diet, and they learn about exercising, and then they actually present how to live a healthy lifestyle. We teach them all about my plate, and it's just more holistic. It's really great. So we use a lot of technology in the world language classroom, and the reason being is because it really helps the students remain actively engaged in their own learning. It also helps them use higher level thinking skills and creativity, and I'll elaborate more on that when we get to the iPads. And also students are acquiring key literacy skills while pursuing fluency in another language. So all the technology we use, starting with the smartboard. The smartboard is great, first of all, because it's so interactive with the students, and it really helps us maintain the focus on world language. It helps us stay in the Spanish language as much time as possible. And it also brings the culture right into the classroom. I mean, we can be doing a street walk in Sevilla, and it's right there on the smartboard, so that's great. And I use it for visuals all the time. We talk about pictures, and we can bring all kinds of authentic information in that way. They're becoming really, those literacy skills are becoming really great at PowerPoint. They use Keynote, Pages, they use Word, Microsoft Office. What else? They're recording. They use QuickTime to record their own voices, so we go into the lab every now and again to do voice recording, so it's kind of like a little language lab. So you're getting technology there. And then the iPads, all the 5th grade, as you know, have iPads, so most of the activities or the presentations this year and their projects are going to be on the iPad. And they just use so many skills. Like right now, we're having them do a return email to a fictitious exchange student. And not only are they writing an email response in Spanish, talking about their families and themselves, but they're learning how to organize an email. They're actually sending an email. They're learning how to type and get accent marks. They're just using all different kinds of skills to do this one thing. And that's what happens when you bring technology in. So it's pretty great. And so Steph is going to talk a little bit about the...
All right, so we thought tonight we'd give you an overview of what happens at the end of 6th grade. So at the end of 6th grade, the students are given a 6th grade exit exam. And the purpose of it is to monitor student progress and to see how far they've come over the years here at Beecher Road School. And it also helps to inform our instruction so we know what areas we need to focus on. For example, we'll show you later on the data from this past May, but from that data we learned that writing is an area that we need to put a little extra focus on. So in our instruction, we're including more writing activities across the curriculum to help improve that area. And everything that we've created with this exam is based on the national standards and the ACFO, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language, their guidelines. So, I'm ready to touch it like the smart board, but it's not working. Sorry, force of habit. So there are 4 components to it. And if you look, in 2010 we began and we established a listening component. And the following year in 2011, we added a speaking component, so those students took a listening and a speaking component. And over the years, we kept adding a piece. In 2012, we added the reading component, and then last year was the first time that 6th grade students, they took the exit exam with all 4 components. So it had a listening, a speaking, a reading, and a writing. So we thought it would be helpful if you could just see what that looks like, just a couple of examples. So we're going to start with the listening, and you get to participate in a minute. So everybody get ready. So basically what happens is there are 15 oral statements that the students hear. And with each of those statements, they see a set of visuals, and they have to decide which visual matches the statement that they're hearing. That's one section. Another section of the listening component is they listen to a conversation and they have to answer a series of multiple choice and true and false questions about what they've heard. So if you advance, all right, so here's an example, question number 4 on the exam. So they see these 3 visuals on the smartboard and they hear this.
Número 4. Para la cena, prefiero comer pollo, papas fritas y guisantes. Para la cena, prefiero comer pollo, papas fritas y guisantes. Para la cena, prefiero comer pollo, papas fritas y guisantes.
¿Quién sabe? A, B o C. A, B or C. C. Okay, so the answer, excelente, muy bien. The answer would be part C. Part C. C. When we assess the listening component, we have a rubric for each section, which is based on the standards and the guidelines. But it's basically broken down into 3 sections. You have novice low, novice mid, and novice high. And before I just give you an overview of that, I want you to notice that novice is the key word. They are still in elementary school. They are still just beginning to grasp language and the components of it. And we do not expect by the end of 6th grade that they are going to be fluent. We hope by the end of 12th grade in high school that they are fluent with that amount of years under their belt of language. But at this level, they are novice learners. We are trying to help them become as proficient as we possibly can to prepare them for the middle school, where they'll receive more grammar instruction and more vocabulary, and they will just have a solid foundation that we have provided here at Beecher Road School. Just to give you an idea, if you are performing at the novice mid or novice high level, which is where we hope that our students fall, they have a real grasp of the vocabulary and the grammar and the sentences and they're able to construct meaning from what they're hearing. And if you're at the novice low level, you might only understand a couple of words. You might not understand the entire sentence or the entire conversation that they hear. So there is a difference between the three levels.
And Ms. Goldberg, if I may, Senora Goldberg, we have children who come in at different years too. So you could have someone come in that 4th grade that never studied world language, 5th grade, 6th grade, so you have all different, so there's a differentiation too that's there.
Exactly. We do have some students last year that came in 6th grade and had never had a word of Spanish instruction in the past. So we have to accommodate those students as well. So the next component is the speaking component. This is really challenging. Basically what happens is they're given a visual prompt, which I'll show you the visual that they received this past May. They have to look at the visual prompt. We take them into the technology center. We give them the headphones and they have to look at this prompt and they have to record a response about what they see. They have no notes, they have no pencil, they have nothing. All they have is the knowledge that we hope is there, and they look at this visual and they have to provide a response completely in Spanish, which is the hope. And we're looking to gauge their ability. Can they say a greeting? Can they provide personal information? Can they identify what they see in the picture, in the visual, in a sentence, in a way that is meaningful and makes sense to a listener? So we do have an example, and this is an example from last year.
Take a look first of all and just think, what would you say in Spanish if you were looking at this here?
And the idea is to really focus on topics that we've covered over the years. So topics we've covered: family, food. We have a nutrition unit that we do in 6th grade. Even something as far as where do you think they are? What's the weather like on this day that you see? What season do you think it is? These are all topics that have been covered over the years. So we're hoping that they can produce an accurate sentence or sentences to go with this visual.
Buenos días, clase. Me llamo David. Tengo 12 años. Soy de Woodbridge, Connecticut. Mi escuela se llama Beecher Road School. Estudio matemáticas y ciencias. Mi clase favorita es matemáticas. Número 2. La familia está en la casa. Hay 6 personas. Yo veo la abuela, la hermana, la mamá, el abuelo, el papá y el hermano. Hace sol y hace buen tiempo. ¿Es verano o primavera?
Okay, so when I assessed that response, that was considered to be on the novice high level, because that student first of all addressed every possible thing that could be discussed in that picture. He elaborated on his thoughts. They were complete sentences. Grammatically, the sentences made sense. Whereas if it was a novice low response, you might hear isolated words. You might not hear a complete sentence. You might hear some phrases instead of the clear, concise thoughts that that student expressed in that recording. So we can go on to the next one. So then there's the reading component. Basically, the students read and see different Spanish authentic visuals. It could be a train schedule in Spanish. It could be a postcard or a birthday card that's in Spanish. So it's authentic Spanish materials that you would actually see in real life if you were living in a Spanish-speaking country. There's also a reading passage where they have to read a passage in Spanish. And all of these there are questions that go along with it. The questions are in English. And the reason those questions are in English is because we don't want them to stumble and get stumped on the questions themselves. We want to know, do they understand the Spanish authentic materials? So the questions are in English, but what they look at and read is in Spanish. So we do have one example to show you. So the students had to, this is one of the questions, where there are 3 questions that go with this. It's an advertisement for a house, all right? And there's a diagram that goes along with the house, and there are 3 questions Woodbridge. We can show you quickly and then we can go back. So one question says, how many bedrooms does the house have? Where is the house located? Which of the following is not available with this house and how much does it cost? So if the students were able to read and comprehend that diagram and this summary right here, they would be able to answer all 4 of those questions. And they are on varying levels of difficulty, those 4 questions. Some of them are easier than others. But you would have to be able to comprehend all of this. And the last part is the writing component. So basically, students are given a scenario in English. So we can go to the next one. I think the scenario is there. So here was the scenario. You are a student studying in Mexico as part of an exchange program. It is your first day of class, and your teacher has asked you to introduce yourself to your classmates. Create a written script in preparation for your speech. So we do have one example of a script, or not a script, but a response from a student last year. I'll just read a little bit of it. Buenos días, clase. Me llamo Alicia. Tengo 12 años. Yo soy de Woodbridge, Connecticut, en los Estados Unidos. Yo soy inteligente, creativa, atlética y musical. Me gusta nadar, leer, montar en una bicicleta y jugar con mis amigas. Me gustan las matemáticas. No me gusta la clase de salud. No es divertido. Hay 4 personas en mi familia. Tengo un hermano, una madre y un padre. Mi familia es mediana. Mi casa es grande. Mi casa es amarilla. Mi cuarto favorito es la cocina. Me gusta comida. So basically, do you want to tell what it says?
Yeah, I'll just translate.
You can translate.
Okay, so it's saying, good morning class, my name is Alicia, I am 12 years old, I'm from Woodbridge, Connecticut in the United States. I'm smart, creative, athletic, and musical. I like to swim, read, ride bikes, and play with my friends. I like mathematics. I don't like health class. We actually make them say what they don't like, so we know that they can produce a sentence like this. So
yes, we force them to talk about their likes and their dislikes, so please don't hold that against anyone.
There are 4 people in my family. I have a brother, mother, and a father. My family is medium-sized. My house is big. My house is yellow, and my favorite room in the house is the kitchen. I like food. My favorite food is pad thai. Pad thai as
So this is an example of a novice high response. One of the components of a novice high response is that the student elaborates on his or her thoughts. This student definitely elaborated. It's very detailed. Everything is addressed that was asked of her. We do give 5 to 8 topics in English, just to give them an idea. You may talk about any of the following, and we say, it needs to be a minimum of at least 10 sentences, so it's completely in Spanish. There are not any grammatical mistakes. The spelling is correct, so this is an example of a novice high response, where you can go to the rubric if you want to. Whereas if it was a novice low response, you would see a lot of grammatical errors, you would see some spelling errors, some of the sentences might not be complete, you might just see phrases here and there because the student might not be able to put together a complete thought. So that's really the difference between the two. And then the novice mid falls somewhere in between that. Novice mid, usually you might find 1 or 2 grammatical errors, but it can be understood, and it's really, it's well done, but it might not be as detailed, and the student might not elaborate as much as a person who's at the novice high level. All right, so now we're just going to talk a little bit about the data and the results from last year. Okay. Or I should say this year, it's May. We're still in 2013.
All right, so this teal here is novice high. The purple represents novice mid. The blue is novice low, and we had a sub-novice low for the first year. We graduated from that though, so we're happy. Anyway, we can see here that the novice high, when we first started, remember listening was the first component that we added, so we started in 2010. And at the novice high level, we had 43% of students And now in 2013, we have 70%, which is a 27% increase. And so from this data, we can pull, obviously, that we have some steady progress in the listening skills, and that the averages have been in the novice high range consistently for the last 3 years, and that student performance has increased, we feel like, because we've been putting more listening activities into our daily routine. I'm going to talk a little bit about the speaking now. Remember, this was the second component that we added, so we started in 2011. And in 2011, students were for novice high at 38%, and then in 2013 they were at 68% for novice high. So that was a 30% increase, which is great. Again, showing consistent growth in speaking. That looks good. No, just go back. I'm not. Okay. And we just, well, finally in 2013, we finally saw that jump. And again, this speaking is by far the most difficult. They have so much they have to do, and the time limit is like only, by the time they get into lab, it's 25 minutes. And they have to, there's also the mechanics of the headphone, the pausing. I mean, it's a really difficult task. So we're really proud of our students to be achieving at that level.
And we're proud of our teachers too, because this is an individual assessment, and there are well over 100 children in 6th grade. So this all has to be fitted into the schedule. And again, we're looking at the pathway of every child with this year.
And so reading was the third component. So we started that in 2012, and we saw, there wasn't a lot of change between 2012 and 2013. They were both at 70% for novice high, and that was actually after we modified the test, because we thought, well, maybe it's a little too easy. It's a little weird that they're all at novice high, but as it turns out, after we modified it, they still were at novice high. So we feel like their strength is reading. And, we'll still try to modify it, make it more difficult, but we'll see what happens. And then last year was the first year we started the writing component. And so we don't really have anything to compare it to. But at the novice high level, there were 46% of the students, 32 at novice mid, and 22 at novice low. And just shows that most of the students were in the novice high, novice mid range, and we both feel that we'd like to see this number, get into the novice high range. So it's our goal this year to focus on writing, and we noticed, some consistent grammatical errors and syntactic form when we looked at their data, or when we looked at their essays, and so that's something we plan on working on this year.
So to just summarize, we feel like the students, they're making consistent, steady progress in the areas of listening and speaking. They're performing really high at in the area of reading. And like we said before, writing is our focus this year, one of our focuses. So we're going to incorporate as much writing as we can into the curriculum to give them lots of practice with writing. So hopefully by the time the exit exam time comes in May, they're prepared, and hopefully we see that data, that percentage go up in terms of how many students we have at that novice high level. And lastly, we really believe that this exam it's a valuable tool, and we plan to continue using it, and it helps to improve and drive our instruction. And go to the next slide. One of the things on here for our future plans is that we did this past year, and we plan on doing it again. We are sharing this data with the Amity Middle School, with the junior high. I am in pretty close contact with one of the Spanish teachers there, and we are sharing our results of the test, and it's helping for placement in 7th grade so that the Woodbridge students are placed at the level where they belong. We're going to continue to look at all 4 sections of the test and modify and revise wherever we need to. We're going to continue to make any test modifications we need to for students who come in new to the school, any students with 504 plans or IEPs or any special education needs that students might need. And we also want to address and focus on the students who are advanced and challenge them as much as possible as we go throughout the year.
Thank you. I always learn a lot from these presentations. I just want to say two things because I have a 7th grader. I know you're using this to inform instruction and to go back because obviously the kids are gone, that you've tested. But it is very reaffirming for the kids when they take this test. I think it's amazing to them how much they do know. I don't think as they go in little pieces they appreciate the scope of what they're doing. So I think this is a reaffirming piece for the kids as they're leaving, even though it's more aligned with what you're doing in the curriculum. And the other thing that I think is true is the amount of vocabulary that the kids leave here with. I don't think you should shortchange yourselves on the amount of vocabulary they leave here with, because again, speaking anecdotally as the parent of a 7th grader, the comfort level with vocabulary when they're ramping up on a lot of the other the structure of language and the more complex parts of grammar, vocabulary seems to be a comfort level with a lot of them that makes the other pieces that they're focusing on that much easier for them to work with because they're not all stressed by the vocabulary. So I think that this was a great presentation. And I the 4 components, I know last time you guys were up here, you talked about the final component coming in. And I do think it's reaffirming for the students as well as, incredibly, helpful for you for what you're doing. So thank you. Did anybody have, Carl?
I want to assure Dr. Stella I have not met with these 2 young ladies, and I'm not a paid shill in all of this. But I bring a longer perspective to this than most of my colleagues on the board. I can say that the progress is marvelous. And my leading indicator of that is that in this presentation, for the first time ever, the word fluency came up. It didn't make it until chart number 6, but it was then mentioned in some detail. That has never happened before. My long-term dream is that when children leave Beecher Road School, they would be fluent. Fluency now would be my motto, because I'm living proof that fluency doesn't come later. And if you want to challenge me in German and Italian, I'll prove it in spades in both of those. And I'm launching a study of Spanish. No hope that I will be fluent in Spanish. But fluency now should be the goal of the program, and hopefully we'll be able to rearrange those hours of instruction to make that happen.
I actually want to piggyback on what Carl was saying too, and I mean, it's probably a question for Dr. Stella and Mrs. Briscoe, but given the ease in which younger children learn, like I look at these numbers of how much time is spent in the upper grades versus the lower grades and think that like that whole cycle should be reversed, and wonder, and I'm particularly concerned that in 1st grade it's only 30 minutes when the research shows that once you hit 7, your brain learns foreign languages in a much more complicated and different way. You can't hear it in the same way. So it's much easier to teach kindergartners and 1st graders and 2nd graders than it is to teach 5th and 6th graders. So I don't know how decisions are made about time spent in Spanish versus other subjects, but it certainly seems like if we want to even begin to think about moving towards a fluency, time in kindergarten, particularly because we have the luxury of a full day kindergarten, we should be having Spanish 2, 3, 4 times a week there. And if anything, if we have to taper it down somewhere, taper it down later on after the kids have learned it when they were younger.
Brava.
Well, we can't argue with you. The one thing we wrestle with, though, is time, and it's even it was a struggle even to find an hour's time in the kindergarten class because of the the different literacy blocks and all the things that are happening within the grade. So you're right. There's one school day. There's a finite amount of time. There are different ways of looking at it. Our 6th grade is a middle school grade in a sense too. That's when there's a density of curriculum too. So we'd love to see the children have more and more time. We're stretching the envelope, though, because of all the competing subjects and things that we have in the day. So we're looking, in addition to what you're saying, we're looking for ways outside the classroom as well. And we'll come back to the board with ideas on that. One was, really enlisting the families so that there's learning now, so the walls of the school disappear. Learning happens, 24/7. And you have children who have a passion for it too, who are able to accelerate along their pathways. And that could be whether it's kindergarten, first or second. But your feedback is well taken, Emily, with that. Yes.
I agree with Emily. We've heard this protest before, and I suspect it arises from the fact that we don't have a commitment to fluency. And if these young ladies had their way about it, we certainly would have that commitment, and I think the board ought to support it.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any
questions?
comments?
Okay.
Thank you very
I want
much.
to personally thank you both very, very much for our teachers are here voluntarily at night, and they extend themselves in so many ways, so thank you. And I thank the board too. I mean, the comments that I'm hearing from Emily, from Carl, from the members here, is that you really support world language. And that's a big asset for Woodbridge, because not every district does support world language.
I mean,
So
it's also, given that, it's certainly a goal that kids do well in the 6th grade exam, thinking about languages, unlike some of the other subjects, you can learn things easier when you're younger in foreign languages versus math, or reading comprehension, or things that, as you get older, you're better at. It's the reverse with languages.
Right.
So
we'll look for ways. Okay, so that's the end of.
Did you have the state?
Oh, the DPI, it was the SPI, that's the performance indicator. There was an accountability plan that we presented from the state. Every school was given kind of a category and a mark. The SPI, now it's called the DPI, District Progress Indicator. That has been sent to us, but there's an embargo on it, so I can't speak publicly about it, other than to say that I think you'll be very pleased when you see it. And as soon as the embargo is lifted, we'll share it with the board and with the public. But we did very well.
Okay. All right, anything for Dr. Stella before we move on? Okay, Karen, Facilities Committee.
Yes, we had our meeting this month. We received an update on boilers, which were, since our meeting, approved. As Alex told us, we have an installation plan in place. We received an update on the upgrade and the proposal process and upcoming meetings, which we've discussed. We also received an update on the submission of the capital budget and front door repair. And we discussed the sustainability initiatives. Dr. Stevinger gave us an update on efforts to collaborate with Massaro Farm, which are moving forward initially with the MAG program and hopefully to the rest of the school. And also the Environmental Steward Program, which started this month. And those are 5th and 6th graders meeting weekly to maintain our swales.
Okay, any questions for Karen? Okay, the building committee, I think the meeting Wednesday is obviously the culmination of a couple years, actually. It'll be 2 years in December that this particular group has been together, this iteration of the building committee. And we are, this close to getting this on the docket for a referendum and getting the project approved. So we, the meeting Wednesday is key, just in terms of understanding. It's the first chance for a lot of the community to hear what's in the upgrade, what's included. And again, the explanation, this is not like remodeling your kitchen. This is replacing your roof and your windows and your boil, your furnace. It's not the fun stuff. It's the things that need to be done, and it's not the pretty stuff. It's what we need, what we need. So the meeting Wednesday is really the culmination of many years of work from many, many people. Most recently, this building committee, but there has been prior building committees and a lot of citizens in this town working very hard to get this where it is now and hopefully to completion. That's the plan. Policy committee. The policy committee continues to work very hard and very efficiently based on last week's meeting, going through the various policies. We don't have a new set of policies for the board to review at this point because we're waiting till we get an entire series done to bring it to the board. So that will be fairly soon. We'll be bringing the 5,000 series to the board, and then the committee's moving on to the next set of policies. Finance, Carl, please.
We met a week ago, and Dr. Fleischman conducted a wonderfully efficient session. I think it's safe to say, as a result of that conversation, young people will not be encouraged to become demographers. The administration is working on the draft of the budget. We talked at some length about that, and we are looking forward to receiving that report at the next meeting.
All right. Before we get to the CABE liaison, I just want to say that some of us were at the CABE conference Friday and Saturday. Lisa, Chris, Dr. Stella, and I were at the meeting. And I just want to make a couple comments. It was very well attended. It was a broad group of people there from districts of all different sizes, from us to much bigger. And just in general, every time I go to one of these, it reaffirms for me how lucky we are as a district to have Dr. Stella and to have our administration and to be where we're at. I mean, financially also, we're lucky in what we can do. Dr. Stella and the administration are ahead of the curve. There's districts out there trying to make a plan for implementing Common Core. We are years into implementing Common Core. There's districts out there still trying to figure out how to handle the teacher evaluation, the teacher administration evaluation plan. Our group has been working diligently involving staff, making this as comfortable a process as is possible for everyone here. So again, it reaffirms to me how lucky we are. The sense of frustration from the state, from the mandates coming down from the state is huge. Frustration is the word by most people. Panic is the word, from others. There's just a lot coming down in a disjointed way, sometimes very last minute changes. So there's a lot of frustration out there from all districts. And again, we're ahead of the curve. Technology is another example. We've been investing in technology for a very long time. It is necessary for the SBAC. It is necessary for what's coming up, and there are districts whose children, don't have the opportunities. Our children know what to do with technology. They're comfortable with it, taking the test. We're looking at what's the best technology to do for the exam. There's districts, going, we need to, to get technology, any technology. So we're in a very different place. And I had asked everybody who had attended to just, if you have a couple comments. Lisa, if you wanted to start.
Sure. I have to say I was impressed by what a productive conference it was. In terms of, it was so useful to have a chance to talk to people, experiencing similar things in very different environments and in similar environments. I think that every session I went to could have gone twice as long productively between the things that the presenters had to say and even more the conversations that were coming up and the questions that were being asked from the audience. So I'd certainly encourage all of you to try to make it in the future. It was very, very helpful. Dr. Stella and I both attended the CABE policy update. I think I'll let him fill you in on some of the key things there, but that was certainly the most kind of newsworthy aspect of the whole thing. It gives you a good sense of where CABE's focus is right
now. I attended a couple of meetings regarding the arts and the use of the arts in terms of music and the visual arts in schools and how that supports the development of reading, how that supports the development of mathematics. And I was impressed because I thought, we've been doing that for years here at this school, and they continue that in the middle school and the high school. So it fell right in with what I think is felt to be pretty important here at Beecher Road, and it has a lot to offer. A lot of the art skills has a lot to offer in terms of development in other areas, so that was important. And the other issue was, there was a lot of discussion, as you can imagine, on security and safety. One of the things, a very impressive session that I went to talked about mental health issues and some of the stressors that our kids are facing, and how, the greater the number of stressors you have, the less likely you are to be able to really, finish school as you get older. So when the kids are young, they tolerate it well, they are able to compensate. But as they get older, certainly toward the middle grades, the middle school grades, that's when you see a lot of decompensation. So it's important, and there was a lot of discussion about how important it is to identify kids who have issues and then work with them, especially as they get older.
Well, it's always wonderful to go out learning, and first of all, it was a pleasure to be with representatives from our own board. We had a chance to talk among ourselves, but also from representatives from Orange and Amity and Bethany. A lot of the learning happened. There was a variety of workshops, but a lot of the learning happened through networking among ourselves as a BOA district, but with other people too. There are hundreds and hundreds of leaders, superintendents, school board members from districts throughout the state, so you could really put your hand on the pulse of what's happening in the state. There was a variety of workshops. Again, the one on the different policies coming out, as I mentioned before, the legal counsel from CABE said she never saw the number of committees and task force that have been formed this year. And these are her words, that this is a year, not education, but implementation. Hopefully we could tie the two together. They should be tied together. But there are a variety of mandated things coming down the pike right now that I feel that we're getting our arms around, but we want to keep our vision of where we're going to with all of this, fit everything together. I had a chance to go to the one on the use of school climate survey data. That was an affirmation for a number of the things we're doing here. A caution was given to be careful about just picking isolated questions and adding them on, to a survey. That work should be done as far as calibration of the type of questions, because you won't get the type of feedback that you think you're getting if you don't. And a number of suggestions were given on that. But also I went to a program on working with gifted students. They use the word advanced too, because the push is there are children who are extremely gifted and so on, but there are strategies of working with giftedness that should be worked with in all classrooms throughout the school. And that's what the board has taken as a goal. And the word differentiation was used quite often as a focus. And again, I compliment the board on that, on focusing on those two areas as far as goals for the year. The keynote speakers were very good. There's one, Dr. Galtman Mukunda, Associate Professor at Harvard University, did a brilliant presentation on leadership, how it applies to all of us. But he used the presidencies as a way of highlighting attributes and certain type of common denominators and so on. So it was just a novel approach in thinking. So it was a good day of learning, and as I process, I'm sure the others process more of the things that we reviewed in the workshops, or through the books that we bought. We'll share more things with the board. One thing that did come up in policy was there's new legislation on school calendars, so just be ready for that. Through the legislation, there's going to be regional calendars, voluntary in this coming year, in the 2014-15, but mandatory in the year 15-16. And some of the givens at this point, unless it changes, and Lawrence, you have a lot of insight into that there, or you're at the front lines there. One is that, of course, 180 days of sessions as a minimum, uniform start date and up to 3 uniform school periods throughout this region during each school year. 2 must be 1-week vacations and 1 must be during the summer. Now, again, they say regionalizations, meaning the RESC are the areas that organize. You know, we're in a RESC ACES, which has approximately 21 districts. So the state will come up with guidelines, more guidelines, I think, in January. The RESC are supposed to come up with a type of calendar before the year is over. There'll be another committee at the RESC level with representatives from the districts here. And we're all crying for some type of flexibility within that, but we'll report back to you. This is as much as we know right now with this year. Okay, so I'll stop here. There's a lot more to talk about. But
Does anybody have anything for anybody who attended? Okay.
One other thing I think is important, with safety, and again, I believe we're ahead of the game with this here, it was emphasized that a driving force within every school, it's going to be mandated, not every school has it, is a very strong safety committee. And it kind of really highlights who should be on, actually dictates who should be on, including representatives from the local police and fire and parent representative and so on. So every area covered we have, and we're very proud of the work that the safety committee is doing. We have a liaison from the board too. And so in consultation with our police and fire departments, our state officials and our consultants, this is a driving force. Of course, the superintendent, principal have very strong oversight with safety, but this is a very important council that we have.
All right, there's no ACES report this week, and is there any public, or this month, is there any public comments, Marcia? No? Okay, then we just need a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Okay, second? Somebody second? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, we're done. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything. You know, we can't say thank you enough, so thank you.